All right, everybody, I'd like to get the meeting started. We have little formalities to get through ahead of time, so they will allow these other people to process through before we get into the real warrant articles. So we have the junior senior high school band here to play the national anthem for us. We're going to start our meeting out with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the national anthem. So would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag's over here to your right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Time right now is 1:14. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thanks for coming out tonight, and thanks for the band members for your contribution. Thank you, band members, for your contribution today. Okay, so this is a new format for us. Okay. Yeah, we're trying. So, yeah, we're having some technical difficulties with the PA system. We're trying to do the best we can. If it gets turned up too much, we kind of get some feedback. So Chris is going to do the best he can to try to help us get through. So this is a new format for us here in the town to hold our deliberative sessions on Saturday. And it's kind of an attempt to combine the two meetings, the town meeting and the school district meeting, at the same time to try to get the information out to you guys. So we're trying this today. If you have any comments or questions, if you like it, if you don't like it, try to get feedback back to any of the town council, school board, budget committee, moderators, any one of us. Tell us what you think about it. We're just trying to help everybody out in general. So this is a deliberative session for the first meeting of the Newmarket School District for the 2013-2014 budget process. I'm going to read you right from the warrant article, from the warrants, the introduction. So to the inhabitants of the Newmarket, to the District of Newmarket in the County of Rockingham, State of New Hampshire, qualified to vote in district affairs. You are hereby notified of the annual meeting, which is right now. The first session for the transaction of all business other than voting by official ballot shall be held today, Saturday, February 2nd at 1 p.m. in the Newmarket Junior Senior High School Gymnasium. The first session shall consist of an explanation, discussion, and debate of each warrant article. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. Warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for final vote on the main motion as amended. No warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. The second session of the annual meeting to vote on questions raised by law or to be inserted on said official ballot, and to vote on all warrant articles from the first session on official ballot shall be held Tuesday, March 12th, 2013, at the Newmarket Town Hall. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So this afternoon, as a courtesy to all the other voters around you, I ask that you take your cell phones and other electronic devices that you have and either turn them off or set them to silent mode. And with that said, if you do have to pick up your cell phone and talk, please move over to an area where you're not disturbing anybody else during this meeting, preferably if you could go outside. Also, it's been asked of me to notify you folks that the school property is a no smoking area, and as a minimum, we're not going to say anything to the police officers, but if you do have to smoke, please step away from the building and go hide in the parking lot somewhere. Pretend like you're a high school student again. For your safety, I'd like to point, not anymore, right. For your safety, I'd like to point out the fire exits, okay, should we have to leave. You can exit from any direction, the way you came in, or you can actually go out this other side of the room, take a right-hand turn, and you can exit the building right out the back side. There's also an exit directly behind me in the corner over there to your right. And if we do need to exit the building, please be sure to stand away from the building so that safety personnel can get to the building and to get to those people that need it. The restrooms are located in the hallway right outside the way you came in. If you don't know me, my name is Bob Madej, and I'm your school district moderator. It's my responsibility to oversee this meeting, to make sure it comes to an end. Also to oversee the voting, which will take place on Tuesday, March 12th in the town hall. So a little bit about the process that's gone on. We're an SB2 town. As an SB2, we have this deliberative session. Prior to this deliberative session, there was a public session. It was held about a month ago. And in that public session, the public had an opportunity to ask detailed questions on the warrants and on the budget. This session is really supposed to be a quick business meeting to settle on the dollar amounts of the warrant and get the wording perfected. So this meeting is called the first session, or the deliberative session, and then you'll hear the second session referred to as the real voting day, where you will really appropriate funds. That's on Tuesday, March 12th. So in this question, you're going to hear the warrants. You're going to be given the opportunity to ask questions. You may amend the warrants within certain stipulations. We can discuss them. We will vote on any amendments that are made to the warrant articles. And in the end, the wording that we come up with at the end of this session will be printed on the official ballot for the second session. I also want to emphasize that this deliberative session is extremely important with respect to these warrant articles. I'm glad to see that everybody here came out today. This first session does not appropriate any expenditures. That's done in the second session. So in this session, because we're not appropriating any dollar amounts, we don't have a typical 2/3 vote for any changes that we make or anything like that. Typically majority rules. The only exception to that are if some amendments are made, it may require a 2/3 vote, but those are far-fetched. I don't think we'll ever run into those. I also want to emphasize to you that this is not the school board's meeting. This is not the budget committee's meeting. The school board's here on my right, budget committee's on my left. This is not their meeting. This is your meeting. You guys are conducting this meeting. I'm here to get you through the meeting and keep us within certain legal bounds. But this is your meeting, and we can do whatever you desire as a majority vote. So during this meeting, I'd like to ask everybody to be courteous to the speakers and to all of those around them. Please remain seated and attentive during the meeting. If you have a need to leave, please do so quietly. The bleachers do squeak quite a bit, so if you can step softly, it would help. And if you do have to leave the meeting, please try to do so when there is no speaker speaking so as not to be distracted. There's been a number of handouts given to you for special information. If you don't have them, feel free to get up and get them. We do not use Robert's rules for guidance at this meeting. We're going to use my rules, and I'm going to preside over this meeting to make sure it gets to the end. If you have any questions on protocol, just ask me. There's a few rules I would like to point out, though. When asking a question or presenting your position, please be sure to use this microphone right down front. And when you first get to the microphone, please clearly announce your name and address for the record so that we can get that into our notes. Please address all questions to me, the moderator. It's my job to be the sounding board, and I will find you the appropriate answer from those around me. Non-registered voters must not be seated in the general area of the bleachers here. So at this time, if you're a non-registered voter, I'd like to ask you to please move over to the segregated area here to my right, to your left. That's a special area designated for non-voters. We welcome you, we're glad you're here, but you are not allowed to participate in the meeting. So since I'm all the way up here at the podium, I can't always hear what's going on up there in the bleachers. So if you are being distracted by anybody up there in the bleachers, please come down here and let me know, and we'll try to resolve that issue. So before we get started, does anybody have any questions on the format of this meeting or your responsibilities? All right. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to the chairman of the two boards in front of me, with me here. The board chairman will introduce the rest of their staff on the boards. So I'll start off with the school board, Cliff Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Cliff Chase. I'm on the school board, the current chair. To my right is Meg Looney-Moore, vice chair, Chet Jablonski, Kelly Foster, Linda Mantegani, Dr. Hayes, our superintendent, Christine Bluen, our business administrator, and Gordon Graham, our representative from legal counsel from Sewell Leslie Kidder, Saywood, and Bowman.
Thanks, Cliff. Thank you, Cliff. And now for the chairman of the budget committee, Brian Hart.
Good afternoon, everybody. Brian Hart, chairman. Ellen Snyder to my left, vice chair. Amy Thompson, Roseanne Quox, Judith Ryan, Drew Kefeber, Russ Simon, and Town Council Representative Gary Levy. Member Dana Glennon is ill and hopefully recovering, and Mr. Fitzgibbon is not present.
Thank you, Brian. All right, so as a matter of legalese, non-residents are not allowed to speak at this meeting unless given permission by you folks, the voters. So at this time, I would like to make an announcement that Dr. Hayes is not a resident of this town, and neither is legal counsel at the end of the table. It's my feeling that I would like to allow those individuals to speak when called upon. They help this meeting move forward. So unless I hear an objection from the audience, I'd like to allow these to talk. Oh, okay, certainly. And that also includes our business administrator, Christine Bluen. So unless I hear an objection to that, I'm going to move forward. Okay, thank you. So on the agenda today, we have a lucky number of 13 warrants to get through. The warrants and supporting documentation have been made available as you came in, and you can certainly go pick that up if you'd like to. I'm going to go through each warrant article in order. I will read each warrant, and Dr. Hayes will provide some background information on the warrant articles. If no motions to amend the warrants are made, I will move on to the next warrant in order. Of the 13 warrants, the last one is actually just a formality to catch all other business. That's warrant article number 13. It is a requirement of this meeting. So please, I ask that all of you remain present at the meeting until we get through warrant article number 13. Also, I need you folks at the end of the meeting. I will ask for a motion to adjourn, a second, and we will have to take a House vote in order to close this meeting. So unless I see a motion from the floor of anything else, I'm going to start off with the first warrant article. All right, I think we're good. Article number 1, to see if the school district will raise and appropriate as an operating budget not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth herein totaling $15,553,567. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $15,889,684, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Newmarket School District or by law, or the school board may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:1310 and 16 to take up the issue of the revised operating budget only. Note, this warrant article, the operating budget, does not include appropriations in any other warrant article. This warrant article is not recommended by a school board by a unanimous vote of 5-0 and recommended by the budget committee 7-3. Note, if article number 3 passes, the operating budget will be reduced by $37,339. All right, so we have warrant article number 1 up for discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Hayes, do you have a few comments to add on this?
I do, thank you, and thank you all for coming today. I would call your attention to the green sheet, that is Article 1, the total operating budget, and call your attention to the lower right-hand corner of the first page. There are 2 tables there that I want to start with. First of all, the operating budget is really composed of 3 funds. The general fund, which is the operation of our schools, but there's a separate fund for food service and another one that has to be a fund for our federal grants programs. Now, for the food service and federal grants, they are really self-funding. As you see below in the revenues, there's a corresponding amount of revenue. So they're really not an expense, but they're not considered part of our general operating budget. If you look at the second table, the lower table there, it gives you the calculations as to how we get to the tax impact, which, given the article as presented just now, has, if you approve that article, it's a reduction of 11 cents per thousand on the tax rate. If you defeat the article and then it turns over to the default, that's an increase on your tax rate of 34 cents per thousand. Initially, the school board put together a budget that was 2.84% increase and was actually $70,000 higher than what is in this article here. On January 22nd, the budget committee, as is it right, because it is the budget committee's number, reduced that by $70,000. I need to tell you that we've had no opportunity as a board to discuss where that $70,000 cut would come from. But right now it's just a bottom line reduction. When we proposed that 2.84% increase, it was really important, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, that we had factors that were beyond our control. The increase in the New Hampshire retirement system was especially egregious, and so drove a lot of our increase. So if you consider that the budget as the school board proposed went up $409,000, these driving forces they exceeded that by several $1,000s. So they're all issues that are beyond our control that drive the increases here. I would refer you to the back side of this sheet, which is where there are highlights here. And again, these are all highlights that are not including the $70,000 cut. Okay, I want to be clear about that because we have no idea where the board may decide to do that reduction. But there are highlights here. If you're curious, the big reduction in this budget was a reduction of 5.5 full-time equivalent positions. And if you look down on the junior, senior high, and elementary school and SAU, you'll see a description of the positions that were cut and what we intend to do about them. I know there were cuts that are painful, but in each of those we felt if we do business differently, we can still programmatically serve kids in the same way. And so it's a difficult decision to make, but that's the decision the board made, and we felt justified in saying we can continue providing services to students and still make these cuts. So again, Article 1, if approved, would decrease the tax rate by 11 cents per thousand.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hayes. Okay, I forgot to introduce a couple other people. So unless it's probably obvious to you that we are videotaping this session. I just wanted to point that out to you. And our videographer is Chris Williams, and he's being assisted by 2 other students who graciously volunteered to help us out today. Thank you. Okay, so I've read warrant article number 1. You've heard a little discussion on it. Is there anybody who wants to make comments on it, offer an amendment to it? Come on right down to the microphone. I ask you to, take a look. If there's a little bit of a line, you don't have to get up. If there's nobody really standing there and you want to talk, come on down. I want this meeting to progress as fast as possible. So come on down to the microphone right away. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Amy Rossi, and I live at 15 Hillside Lane. I feel terrible that my back is to you, because this really is to you, but please excuse me if I face in this direction. I've lived in this town for 20 years. I have a son that graduated last year and a daughter that's going to graduate this year. I've taught in Newmarket for 18 years. To say that I'm dedicated to the education of the children in this town is an understatement. And by the way, as a teacher and a member of the community, I feel I help pay my salary, as do many of us. I want to thank Dr. Hayes for preparing a comparison of teacher salaries in the area. It is one concrete way to show the incredible dedication of my esteemed colleagues. Those of you with children in our schools know the dedication to our students. Our salaries in Newmarket are anywhere from $9,000 to $20,000 less than the highest paying district, and only $3,000 to $4,000 less or more than the districts that pay less than we do. And there's only one of those. We have incredibly low turnover of teachers in this district, which shows the dedication. We are not here for the money. It is important to note how the cuts in personnel in our schools directly affect our teachers' abilities to provide the best education to our students. We have a very diverse population of students at all grade levels. In any classroom, there could be a span of abilities of at least 4 grade levels. We have students that need additional assistance because they're working at levels well below the grade that they are in. And we have students working well above the level of the grade of the classroom that they're in. Our recent cuts, including those intended for this year, eliminate paraprofessionals whose valuable assistance increase the ability for a classroom teacher to reach more students effectively, and eliminate the enrichment program that provides additional challenges for those students with abilities above grade level. Not to mention the intention to cut one special education coordinator, which will affect the ability of special education case managers to spend as much time in and out of the classroom, excuse me, teaching our students in need. Now the Budget Committee has asked for an additional $70,000 in cuts. I can't imagine where that's going to come from, excuse me, and what negative effects it may have for our children. Times are tough financially, no doubt, but let us not save money by affecting the ability of our teachers to reach our town's children. I would like to propose an amendment to the dollar amount of Article 1, returning $70,000 the Budget Committee removed from our already too lean budget. And as a note for later, please support our teacher contract.
All right, okay, so we have a motion on the floor to make an amendment to warrant article number 1 to add $70,000 back into the budget, which brings it to, if I got my math correct, $15,623,567. Do I have a second on that motion? I need a name, please.
Nicole Benton.
Nicole Vexen? Benson. All right, I have a motion and a second. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
And because the microphone isn't working very well, Amy did apologize to everybody up front. She addressed that discussion really to everybody in the audience when she turned around there. I don't know if you all heard that. So also with that in mind, we seem to be, some people have told me that they're having difficulty hearing from the PA system. There are some chairs available down here up front, which gets you a lot closer to the speakers. Please come on down and sit there if you're having difficulty hearing. All right, so we have a motion on the floor with a second. Right now we move into discussion of that before we move forward with a vote on it. Is there any discussion on the amended article? Come on right up. And anybody else who wants to talk, come on, file right in behind them.
Lorianne Cabrioli, 40 Riverbend Road. I'll bring it up in the discussion, was also my question. I just wanted to ask the Budget Committee what their thought process was, and I know from being on the Budget Committee that you guys carefully think about things before you suggest cuts, and what was your thoughts about where cuts could be made? Representing that $70,000.
Brian, would you like to address that?
I can only tell you my input from looking at it. I can also tell you that the approach the Budget Committee took in looking at all these warrant articles was to look at all the warrant articles first before it looked at the operating budget, because there's a number of warrant articles that may impact that and the tax rate, so they could get a complete understanding. I think it's as a result of that review. Personally, there was somewhere in the neighborhood, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, due to the reduced insurance rates for the year for both union employees and non-union employees, there was a potential savings on the insurance of about $460,000. That split somewhere around $350,000 within the teacher's contract and about $110,000 for the non-union employees. Virtually all the savings was turned into a first-year salary increase in the teacher's union contract, which at least I considered to be a little high at about 3.7%. And none of the additional savings in the non-union side was incorporated into the operating budget like it is in the warrant article at $37,000 savings on the teacher side. That was one area. The second area that I thought could have been, and these were suggestions that some of us made, was in the warrant article of raising another $706,000 for the build a new school or repair the existing school fund. Personally, I think it's the right thing to do to contribute to that, but next year's planned contribution was $355,000. There's currently $600,000, I think, at least left from last year's contribution that hasn't been used yet. And so from, again, my perspective, and I don't know what the other Budget Committee members may say, I thought balancing the request to the taxpayers in a difficult economic time between $700,000 this year and $355,000 next year, that we suggested perhaps a better balance between the 2 years to, again, reduce what the tax impact would be this year for the full $700,000. Those are a couple of them. I can go through others, but as a result of all those discussions and feedback from the school, the $70,000 that we're talking about was not knowing how the warrant articles were going to play out through this. Like, for example, on the teacher side, I think the first year raise using the savings on insurance was about 3.7%, yet the police union was 1.5% or 1.6% raise in the contract. So that was some of the thinking. The 70,000 is less than 0.5% of the operating budget of the school. So I didn't think it was that significant, and there were other issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, can I ask a question not related to the amendment, or should I come back to it?
Brian Hart is, Brian's going to add to that.
The other aspect, there you go. The part that the budget committee felt pretty strongly about was that, and Russ hit on it, the district has found an insurance plan, and the teachers have agreed to it, that would amount to some tremendous savings and offer a very similar plan. And the budget committee felt strongly that no matter what happens with the contract, the school district needs to implement that next year. And the operating budget that you're looking at does not implement the savings that would incur for the non-union members, which is about $110,000. And the school administration and the school board pointed out that underneath the Federal Affordable Health Care Act, the town could potentially face fines underneath that program because the insurance is not affordable underneath their definition, and those could amount to $60,000, I think was the estimate. And because the health insurance plan that is on the table for adoption is cheaper, there's a potential that more eligible union employees will enroll in it, or non-union employees, which could actually swallow up some of that $110,000 savings. The budget committee understood that, but what made some of us say that this should be reduced is that we really wanted to drive a change in the health insurance, even if the contract fails, because health insurance and benefits basically represent 50% of the salary of an employee. So if you're paid $50,000 a year, $25,000 of additional costs are incurred. 10 years ago, it wasn't 50%. So we're trying to control the long-term ratio, because the worse it gets, the worse the increases will happen when health insurance goes up in the future. So I think the message from the budget committee is, no matter what happens with the union contract, there needs to be a negotiation that happens after this March vote that implements a health insurance plan that's on the table right now. And we felt like doing this would really send that message.
Okay, thank you, Brian. So again, come on up and make your comments. I'd like to keep them focused to the amendment, which is dealing with the dollar amount of the warrant article.
Okay, Diane LeBlanc, Elm Street. This is my first time doing this, so I'm assuming that this is in line with what you just asked, but I prepared a statement today that I'd like to read about in direct opposition to the proposed operating budget cuts. My husband, my son, and I moved to the area a little over 3 years ago. We fell in love with Newmarket, and we were excited to make Newmarket our home and to become a part of this community. We love walking down to the water for picnics, watching the ducks and herons. We're recent members of the Newmarket Community Church. In short, we have made Newmarket our home and want to continue to be a part of this community. The year before our son entered kindergarten, we started hearing other parents talking about get-togethers and talking about moving to other towns. We knew a number of people that moved to Newfields, Exeter, Lee, Hampton. While we were equally concerned, we stayed because we had heard many positive words about the teachers in the school system, especially the elementary school, and because we love Newmarket. Our son entered Ms. Lazarus's afternoon kindergarten class this year, and she has been an amazing, nurturing, and engaging teacher. Even though kindergarten is only 2.5 hours a day, including recess and snack, we are fortunate to be able to supplement the remainder of his school day with the kindergarten program at Great Bay. In many schools, such as Ms. Rossi talked about, there are students that have a range of academic abilities. Some students may begin kindergarten not being able to identify letters or numbers, while other students are already strong readers and able to add and subtract single or even double digits. Our son is in the latter group, and though we were concerned about him becoming bored and not being challenged at his level, we focused instead on the social and emotional growth he would gain. When he was selected for the enrichment program with Ms. Rossi for both reading and math, our anxiety was lessened. He looks forward to enrichment every week and comes home on those days and talks about it excitedly. He enjoys learning. I know many people are here today with concerns about the structure of the school, its non-compliance with the American with Disabilities Act, and the Fire and Safety Department. But I ask that you also bear in mind there are many children who will get lost in this school if the enrichment program and other programs are cut, or if a solution is not made to meet the needs of the more advanced students or all of the students. It is the responsibility of the school to meet the needs of all of its students. It is in the community and the school's best interest. We should want families to move to Newmarket for the education that it provides. I want an education for my son that challenges him, that interests him, that excites him. Newmarket cannot afford to have good families move to other towns. We are one of those families considering moving and moving away from our beloved community. We ask that you consider keeping Ms. Rossi and find a way to work within the budget. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any other people to add to the discussion. Okay, so like I said, please come on down.
Alicia Bono, 71 Lady Slipper Drive. The main question I'm trying to get at is quantifying the $70,000 cut for the taxpayers. Is there someone that can answer what the average homeowner will see in terms of a reduction in their taxes next year due to the $70,000 that would be cut from the budget? Because we all know that that would probably equal at least one additional staff member. So I'm trying to quantify the pros and the cons.
Okay, I'm going to try to summarize your question. So you're saying with a $70,000 reduction in a budget item, what does that mean as far as taxes? So simply...
Obviously average, you can't be specific, but just to quantify that?
Yeah, so simply talking by $100,000 tax impact, what would a reduction of $70,000 amount to? Is anybody? $20
$20 for a $200,000 house.
$20 for a $200,000 house.
Thank you, $20, thanks.
The correct answer is $250,000, $250 a year for a, okay, I really butchered that.
Hold on a second, the calculator's looking. 25 for a $250,000 house.
$25 a year for a $250,000 house.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right, so now I'm hearing another number. It's okay.
Actually, it's 9 cents per thousand.
Okay.
$200,000 house, that's $18, so forth. 9 cents per thousand. So this is the article is presented as an 11 cents per thousand reduction. If you approve the amendment, it's a 2 cent per thousand reduction.
Lorraine Stody, Briarly Circle, Newmarket. I have two questions. On the school to career coordinator position, that was a half-time position that will be eliminated. It says that they will continue the program through English guidance and transition programs. These are duties being added to those jobs. So in other words, is this going to be added to their job description, or is it at their discretion?
Dr. Hayes, would you like to address that?
No, it's not discretionary, but it gets added to the program. For example, resume writing can be part of the English curriculum and so forth.
But are there aspects of the school to career program that will not be covered by guidance, English, or the transition program?
We believe we can cover all of that. And the big piece, obviously, are internships and job shadows, and guidance and the transition coach will be the ones to move that along.
Okay, my other question is on the elementary school side. A reading specialist vacancy will be replaced by a reading tutor. What will be the qualifications of that tutor? Is this going to be a person hired, or is it someone within the system?
Dr. Hayes, would you like to?
It's not someone within the system. We have a retirement that we're replacing, instead of replacing with a specialist, replacing with a tutor. Typically, that's a person with a bachelor's degree. Our belief, and we know the market out there is fairly rich, so we expect to be able to hire somebody who actually has a certification as a reading specialist, but is looking for a job.
But that's not going to be required?
That's not required, no. By and large, most of the functions conducted by a reading specialist can be done by a tutor. Not all of them, typically administering different assessments, but we have others that can administer those assessments, so that's how we look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, come on up to the microphone. Just real quick, as a matter of formality, I just want to make an announcement that prior to this meeting, I had received a letter addressed to myself as the moderator from a member of the public. It had 2 questions on it. A little while ago, I verified with the keepers of the checklist that this individual is not present at this meeting. So unless anybody knows of this letter and wants to come forward and discuss it, I am not going to carry it forward by any means in this meeting. All right, thank you. Would you continue?
Hi, my name is Heather Major, 386 Wadley Falls Road. I came up to articulate a couple things about one of the items on the second page of the total operating budget of Article 1, and then I had a couple of questions. So forgive me if my voice is shaky. At the bottom of the page, one of the items was the Building Special Education Coordinator position, and it says that it'll be eliminated. When I look through the school board budget, it's represented throughout in all of the elementary school positions. And so it does say, and I did attend the meeting about a month ago, and so there it was said that the position was not necessarily decided upon between either of the schools, and that a stipend would be paid to a case manager at each of the schools to carry out those tasks. I have 2 children, one who benefits from the enrichment, and then I have another who benefits from the special education process and the wonderful teachers here. When I first started, when we moved from early supports and services to this school, I looked at the website, and on the website I looked at special education, and one of the positions was the building special education coordinator. I didn't think anything of it at the time, thought it was an odd title, and wondered why someone would be in charge of the building for special ed. Now, as the budget cuts continue, I become more and more concerned, because when you look at what this person does and the qualifications for this person and how they provide support to staff, parents, and students with special needs. They work regarding referrals and process for placement to programs, reviewed as needed for each individual case. This person works through all the special education laws, requirements. It works with the communications. This building wording in the job description is specifically upon my research, because there's one that's located at each building. My concern, especially with the cut to this position and additional cuts, but I'm speaking mainly to this one, is that looking at the case managers and their workload and having a special needs child at home and dealing with all of the things for that child, it's a lot to ask. There's a lot of legalese. Every time I get a notification for a meeting, whether it be just an evaluation, I ask questions. Do we need this evaluation? You know, that was just one example. So you have to go, you have to research everything. If we're asking the case managers to do more with less resources, and we have increasing out-of-district placement. Out-of-district placement is a significant cost to our budget. And there was an article in the Seacoast newspaper on January 8th where Christine had to tell the school board Thursday that they had to freeze spending after learning about 3 unexpected out-of-district special education student placements. Our goal, well, one, I just want to say that each individual child has the right to an education, an equal education, an equal opportunity. I feel strongly about this. I feel strongly about both of my children's education, and just thought that this would help to better define something that 5 years ago I knew nothing about. So I just had a couple of questions. Maybe I'll stop shaking now. One of my questions is, was the building special education coordinator an adjustment to the elementary school budget, or is it an elimination from the SAU budget? And what can be done to make this clearer to the voters?
Okay. All right, let me just make a little announcement first. So just try to keep the meeting moving a little bit faster. So what we have is, we're talking about a dollar amount in the budget to be allocated. And I don't want to stifle anybody from coming down front and talking their opinion. I'm trying to give you some time to settle down, okay? So I don't want to stifle anybody from coming down and giving their opinion, but we're talking about the budget amount. Now, the budget is controlled by the school board. Once they get it, they can move funds around here or there, and they can make changes, and they can refund this one position or other positions if they choose. They can move the money. So really, we're talking the dollar amount here. If you want to talk specific positions and voice your opinion to uphold them, to reinstate them, to keep them instated, the place for that is to come to the school board meetings and talk to them.
Okay.
But I'll certainly try to get your question addressed for the intent at this time for the building special ed coordinator. Dr. Hayes, could you address that?
Yes. In the budget proposal, at the time, we have a building special education coordinator of both buildings. We had not made a determination which of the 2 positions would be eliminated, and we still have not done that. What we'd be left with then is a position that is really then a district-wide position. That was the concept. The one remaining works district-wide, and then a case manager in each building picks up some administrative roles. So you're accurate with that. The reason it's listed, that I listed it under SAU, is because ultimately it becomes a district-wide position. In the budget, it shows the cut at the elementary school, but it also clearly stated that's just a place to put the number reduction. We really don't know which school budget it's coming from.
Thank you.
Did you have a second question?
I did. Let me find that.
Yeah. Really, the shaking doesn't stop until you come up into this position, you know, and have it for a little while, and then it never really goes away. So just try to relax.
Thank you. No, I think I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. Mark Paulzanetti from 8 Stonewall Way. So obviously there's a big impact for everybody here, financially and emotionally, as we've been hearing already this afternoon. And it's difficult. The school budget obviously had to cut 5.5 positions to achieve the budget that they approved. We've all heard a few of those positions being special education, enrichment, the school to career, and the budget committee. I can understand a little disappointed in terms of where they came up with the entire budget and how everything played out. With that being said, I do feel as if it was somewhat arbitrary, in terms of the number that they got to say we want a $70,000 cut because they were disappointed with how the school contract went, which candidly is a different article. I feel as if we should keep article to article, and I feel as if it would be a better opportunity for the budget committee to actually explain to us more of a line item where they wanted the cut to come from. But that's kind of beside my point that I really want to get to. They want to implement some savings from the health contract for all of us, which I think is obviously a very good idea. However, I personally can't imagine any union that's going to want to see, that won't want to see some sort of compromise if they're giving $340,000+ back, but they wouldn't want something back in return for their employees. So I understand where you're coming from, but it doesn't seem to make sense when you're looking at trying to come up with a contract when dealing with unions. So I agree with many different places here, but I think at this point in time, the one person I agree with the most is Ms. Rossi, where we want to put some money back into the budget, and I actually propose that we move forward to vote on that at this point in time.
All right, so I'm not seeing a whole lot of people jumping up to continue the discussion on this warrant article, and I'm going to take that from Mark as a motion to move the article as stated. I need a second for that. Somebody, a name, someone? Jane Windsor. Okay, so in order to terminate discussion, I need a majority vote. Let me just check that for a moment. To limit the debate. To limit debate, I actually need a 2/3 approval. So with the applause and all that I got, I think I'm going to get it with just a yay or a nay. We're gonna go that way. So all those in favor of stopping the discussion on the amendment, which raises the budget amount by $70,000, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. I think that's 2/3. All right, so now that we got past the formalities, we have a motion on an amendment on the floor to amend warrant article number 1 to the sum of $15,623,567. I'm going to take a voice vote on this at first. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Nay. I'm going to say the ayes have it, and the motion passes. Warrant article. Warrant article number 1 is amended to read $15,623,567. There is a note on here that, well, I guess it'll still reside about the school board not recommending the budget, or right at the bottom of the warrant we have the school board's vote. I guess it has to stay that way because that's the vote that you cast previous.
That was a vote that was cast based on that vote was cast based on the amended number by the budget committee. If there is to be a recommendation listed, I think it would require the school board to re-vote.
So we could amend it to strike that. Okay, yeah, legal counsel?
Both the board and the budget committee has the option after the meeting and if there's an amendment to an article to meet at their either today or at a subsequent meeting to change their recommendations. And that's a decision of the board and the board alone to make. And that's by statute.
Yes, thank you very much for that clarification. So right now the warrant article reads that the school board does not recommend this warrant article. They will have the opportunity between now and the second session to have a meeting. We will have a meeting between now and then.
In fact, if we have the opportunity to do that today, we might want to do that.
We can do that today, but after this meeting.
I think you need to post a meeting. You need to have an official meeting.
They're all here.
Yeah, but they have to, it has to be an announced meeting under disclosure. Right, so you'd have to post your meeting, so, okay. All right, so that's the way it goes. So, right now, we're back to the original warrant article as amended. If there's not any further discussion, I'm going to move on to warrant article number 2.
Mr. Moderator, William Foster, 11 Lanes Lane, I'd like to limit reconsideration.
Okay, so I need a name, please.
William Foster.
William Foster has made a motion to limit reconsideration of this warrant article, which means we will not take it up again at this meeting. Okay? Now, I would just want everybody to understand that we're holding our deliberative session a little bit early this year. So we do have an opportunity to come back and have fun next Saturday. So limiting reconsideration means that at this meeting we can't take it up. However, should 95% of you folks leave prior to the end of the meeting, and an individual in that remaining 5% says, I want to reconsider, and it passes, we would have to take it up at another special meeting. Hold on. Okay, I've been corrected. So to limit reconsideration kills it. We can't take it up again at this meeting or a subsequent meeting due to the fact that we're in SB2 law. All right, so I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
A name, please.
Michael Lang, 27 Spring Street.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to limit reconsideration. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Moving on to warrant article number 2. Hold on just a moment. Yes, I did. Nobody got up to talk. All right, so the discussion was that we had amended the warrant article, and they said I didn't give the opportunity for any more discussion on it, and I thought I did. I asked if anybody wanted to come back up and further discuss it. I didn't see anybody else come up, and I moved on to warrant article number 2. So unless anybody feels like they want to override me, and I'm not seeing it, okay, I do see somebody coming down.
PA system, we need a bake sale to get a PA system that works. I did not hear whether you were discussing the second warrant. Is that what we're discussing at this point?
Okay.
Are we discussing the first?
We are essentially discussing the first warrant article.
Okay.
I'm kind of asking if anybody wants to override my decision to move on to warrant article number 2.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so we are going to move on to warrant article number 2. Warrant article number 2 reads as follows. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $706,907 to be added to the construction of a new school building or renovation of existing school buildings for fire and life safety code compliance, capital reserve fund established in 2012. This is recommended by the school board unanimously, 5-0, but it is not recommended by the budget committee by a vote of 5-5. Would anybody like to comment on warrant article number 2?
Lorraine Stoughty, Brianna Circle. As you read it, you said to be added to the construction of a new school building or renovation of existing school buildings, but in this article it says and. Is it and or? Because there is a difference.
So it would be my bad if I said or. It is written as and it is as written.
Paul Dade, Early Smith Harrison Road. I'm not about to pretend that any attempt to amend this article will pass. I understand the nature of these deliberative sessions. However, during the last discussion, the question was raised, how many cents on the dollar would something increase our taxes? That's the $70,000. Well, this is 95 cents. And if you take a look at all of your tax bills, if you take a look at the sheet that was passed out before you got here, that breaks down the county tax rate, the school tax rates, the proposed increases in tax rates, they all come down to cents. And there are a few personal stories. It's not very personal, but I'll tell it. Since 1976, we built our first house, built our second house in '84. Since 1984, our taxes have gone up 400%. I appreciate the passion that people bring to these arguments. I appreciate the passions for special ed services, which one of my children used. But the final analysis, if you're going to stay in town 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years, by approving these amounts of money, when your kids hit college, your taxes are going to have quadrupled. And you will be trying to pay college tuition fees that will have quadrupled. There needs to be a context when folks vote for these tax increases. And the context, with all due respect, is not what my child needs today. I have listened to these arguments since I came to town in 1976. I've served in the school board and listened to these arguments. The faces change, the names change. But I will tell you, the arguments made today are the same ones made in 1978. They are the same ones made in 1998. And at some point, you have to trust that the people that sit down and hash these budgets out have some sense of what they're doing. And again, I'm not going to make a proposal to change this because I know it's not going to change. I would ask, however, that when everybody goes to the polls and they look at these numbers, they take a real hard look at number one, at what it's going to cost them as they raise their family here, and number two, the wall that it's going to put up with other voters who are going to say, look, I can't afford a new school. I can't afford renovation of a new school. I can't afford the taxes that I'm already paying. And to make a decision that goes beyond your kid, my kid, I've had 4 kids go through here. I've never tried to make a decision based on what my kids' needs. I try to make a decision based on what the town needs. Thank you.
So I was a little remiss. I did not give Dr. Hayes the opportunity to explain the warrant article. And at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Hayes if he could give us a little quick summary on the basis of this article number 2.
I will, thank you. The handout is the pink sheet, obviously you've seen that. And much of the narrative gives the history and what is in the future for planning of that money. If you look at the chart on the right-hand side, you see that in summer of 2011 we spent $200,000. A lot of it had to do with simple projects that could be done in the summertime, not something that required a lot of long-range planning and going out to bid. Last year, this annual meeting approved $769,270, of which we have already spent $100,000 approximately. And that was for something that was not part of the plan. The potential ceiling collapse was a major issue at that junior-senior high school. And when it first happened, we did a considerable amount of work right then and there and found money in our operating budget to make it happen. But we had to do a second phase, which was about $100,000 of summer work, and that came out of this dual-purpose fund. The intention for that money was to deal with 2 major issues, the most serious being egress from the science labs that are on the 2nd floor of the school. The second being to install an enclosed stairwell and elevator on the far end, the parking lot end of the building, if you will. We've had work with the State Farm Marshal's office, who has made it very clear we have to go forward with the egress from the science labs, and has allowed us to delay for some period of time whether we do the elevator and stairwell or not. But the message has been clear. What we have to do is still be in compliance with the plan that we put together, and that is by September of 2015 to have come up to complete code compliance with all of these. So the next phase gives us the money we need if we're going to go forward and do all of this code compliant work. When we had discussions with the budget committee about this, and I think it was referenced even earlier, they had an interest in seeing, gee, can we swap around the amounts? Is there a way we can reduce to $700,000? The way that we put the plan together was to take the projects that were before us, and there were a number of them throughout the building, and chunk them into certain areas of the building and a certain priority order, which ones were the most serious than others. And so the numbers here really reflect doing the plan in that order and with the least amount of intrusion in the building, rather than having contractors all over the building, having them in a certain area, because it's very likely the work will not be able to be completed in a summer. We wanted to minimize the impact on the school program. And so that was the thinking that went into build this. So when I had that conversation with the board, I said, no, I really believe we need to stay with these numbers so that we stay within the plan. And that's all.
Okay, so I'm sorry I didn't get that out up front, but if you still have questions, come on up.
Gail DeRocha, Whitemark, 26 Bay Road. My ultimate question, how long are we going to discuss this issue? I've been in this community for about 5 to 6 years. Since we moved here, we've been talking about the same thing. How long are we going to talk about this issue? We approve money because it's an investment for our town and our children. We do it for today, and we do it for tomorrow. We do it for the future. That's why we invest money. That's why we're talking about it. If we don't have a safe school, then we don't have a town. If you want to see your taxes go up, when everybody moves, there's going to be no tax base, and everyone's going to have to pay and pay and pay. We can't afford to not have a safe building for our children and our staff. How much more are we going to take away from the community? Thank you very much.
I'm going to take that as a rhetorical question. I don't really have to respond to that. I'm going to hold off just a moment because Roseanne Quox wants to make a statement.
Roseanne Quox, Budget Committee. I basically have no problem with doing any of the fire and safe life codes that need to be done at the school. I do have a problem with the wording of the article. Now, Dr. Hayes stated, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the money listed here in past and present appropriations from warrant articles for dual purposes, he's planning on using that money to fix the codes needed to make this building safe. I'm all for that. But when you put into it the construction of a new school building, that means he has the ability to take several thousand, if not $100,000 or more dollars out for architectural plans for a new school to be constructed. And we haven't even as a town approved a new school to be built. So therefore, I feel that the money should be used only for fire and safety, fire code, and the language here, and I'd like to know, how much money does he plan on taking out of this money that's supposed to be to improve the school for architectural plans for a new school that hasn't been voted on? I feel that's not a good use of the money. We need the money in the school to make it safer for the kids, not for plans for a new school that has not been voted on yet.
Okay, so Roseanne has a question about the funding as a program. Let me just add that this fund was previously established, and unless I'm wrong, we had that dual purpose established in there such that if we didn't have to make the changes to the existing building, those funds didn't go away and they got rolled into the new building, if I'm correct, right? And that's why it was a dual purpose fund. Now, Roseanne has a question specifically to the dollars amount, and her question was, how much of that dollar amount is to be allocated for architectural design for a new school?
Okay, that's good. All right. In terms of for a new school, right now, in terms of the new junior, senior high school, I would say minimal, maybe up to $50,000 for the foreseeable future. And so we've really completed a lot of the work that needs to be done before that kind of decision comes to you, the voters. But if a tuition agreement with Oyster River for our high school students makes a great deal of sense and appears to be a reality in the year ahead, then I can see going to that pot of money to hire an architect to begin saying, okay, now what do we do for our junior high students that would remain in this current facility? That's a planning effort that we've not gone down that road at all. And I can't give you any timeline in terms of Oyster River. Really, it's their operation to run, and so I really have no idea when that decision might be made. We're having discussions with them, but I could see that as a potential another need that we would have to start right away, and that would come out of the dual purpose fund.
I'll just add one more thing to that, just so everybody's clear. This current facility is junior, senior high school. Those talks that the board is engaging in with Oyster River is for high school students only. We would still need to take care of our junior high students some way. And Cliff would like to make a statement here real quick.
I'd just like to make a quick clarification on process. A comment was made by a budget committee member that it sounded to me like it was a jurisdiction of the superintendent to decide where the monies were spent, whether it was on architectural work or otherwise. It's the school board's responsibility, and he's our agent for that.
Lorraine Storti, Brianna Circle. If I'm not correct, in the previous time when this came up, or this article was presented in another year, I think the wording was different in that it said either to be added to the construction of a new school building or renovation of existing school buildings. And I think that would change, at least my understanding of this.
Okay, so hold on just for a moment. I think I do have the wording from last year. I don't have the wording from last year.
I have it. 1 second.
Okay, it's coming. No, the question is, she's questioning how we addressed the capital reserve fund is identical to how we originally set up the capital reserve fund. So, do you have it right here?
It was Article 3 last year. To see if the school district will vote to establish a capital reserve fund for construction of a new school building and renovation of existing school buildings for fire and life safety code compliance. So what name?
So the language is identical to the language of last year. Thank you. Okay, anything further? Questions, comments?
Tony Weinstein, Ashmont Road. And my understanding of our situation with our junior, senior high school is that we have 3 options. We have Oyster River, which is an option that we are currently exploring. We have a new school option, which we may or may not continue talks about and handle next year. But if neither of those happen, we have to fix the fire and life safety issues in the school. So to Mr. Dieterle's point, I hope that people do think about that when they're in the voting booth. Because when our school is shut down because it is unsafe, that will impact taxes, certainly. Thank you.
Hi folks, Nathan Lunny, Bennett Way. It's a pleasure. I've lived in Newmarket for 10 years, and I'll tell you that unfortunately the question or the matter of trust always seems to be one that comes up every time I watch or attend these sessions. I would encourage us all to appreciate the fact that although not all of us trust anybody, some of us only trust ourselves, and if we don't do it ourselves, then we can't feel comfortable with it. But the reality is that we as a community created this fund, dual purpose, so we could move forward with opportunities and options to deal with the challenges that face us. We as a community elected this school board to make their decisions in the best interest of our students and our taxpayers. And so I really appreciate the work that's gone in. I know that you'll use all due diligence, and I appreciate the chair's comments about supervision of the superintendent and the school district, and it being the school board's prerogative to decide how we deal with these dollars and these challenges moving forward. And if nobody's standing behind me, I will move the question.
Okay, so we have a motion to move the question. And I need a name on a second.
Bob Daigle.
Bob Daigle. Okay, again, to move the question, I need it, I hate to do this, but now, there's a motion on the floor to move the question. Yes, he made a motion to move. No, there's no amendment. There's no amendment. That's right. We don't have
I was going to make an amendment.
You were going to make an amendment?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to strike that second. No, we don't really have a motion on the floor. So. Okay, so please state your name.
Francis Salander, Bradley Circle, Newmarket. Question first, $706,907. Is that the required amount to complete the code compliance and fire and safety? Or can you adjust that amount?
All right, so anybody from the board want to address that? Or Dr.
Address that. The mic's not there yet.
Yeah.
That is the amount for what is planned for year 3 of this 4-year plan. So there's still work to be done out of year 2, as I explained, and then there'll still be work to be done out of year 4.
And it's all that money would be devoted to renovations?
If that's where we have to be, yes, because we have to be code compliant by September of 2015. And the only way to escape that deadline is if we have some concrete step towards a new school solution. And I'll say that this way, the letter that we got was construction of a new school. I think if there were a concrete step towards Oyster River, that may change a little bit, but we still would have students in the school that needs to be code compliant. So.
Well, I think that consideration is premature. So I would like to amend the article to read, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $706,907 for the renovation of existing school buildings for fire and safety code compliance, capital reserve fund established in 2012.
Okay, so I recognize your recommended amendment, but however, I think the wording of the capital reserve fund is construction of new school building and renovation. The language that you're trying to amend is only the title of the capital reserve fund. We're not going to create a new capital reserve fund. That's the language of the capital reserve fund. I'm not recommending that we move forward with your amendment.
Oh, I misunderstood you then. Misunderstood.
I understand the confusion between allocating funds for either renovation or new. However, the fund name is both. It's a dual purpose fund at this time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we're kind of back in the same situation. People want to move on, and I'm not seeing anybody else getting up to talk. So I am going to move on to the next warrant article. All right, thank you. Okay, so the next warrant article is warrant article number 3. And warrant article number 3 deals with the teacher's contract. I just want to say a few things about the teacher contract that everybody might not be aware of. These numbers in this contract came through a collective bargaining process between the school board and the Teachers Association. These numbers are negotiated numbers between those two groups. And they worked through a series of months, maybe even years, I think it's been, to come up with a negotiated value that they could both sign. Now, it wasn't a secret process, but it's a process by law that these negotiations are done not with public disclosure. These decisions, these dollar amounts, the negotiations, the give and take that goes through to achieve these numbers, to achieve who's going to be the health care provider, who isn't, how much of the health care the teachers are going to pick up, how much the town picks up. These are all negotiated items that are taken care of during the process. Those items are not released to anybody outside of those two groups until it's signed on the dotted line and finalized by both departments saying, this is what we would agree to. So, knowing that, I just want you to know that if you do happen to come up with an amendment to this warrant article, it will go back to the Teachers Association, and the Teachers Association will have to vote to approve the changes that you make to this wording, these dollar amounts, or this amendment, this warrant. You could put this warrant article in jeopardy of being null and void. If the Teachers Association does not buy off on the changes that you make, it could cause this whole thing to go back into renegotiation and the process starts back over from zero. That means everything is put back on the table, everything can get changed around again. As you know, the negotiations are not a cut and dry, everybody agrees one way and everybody else agrees to it. It's a little give and take, there's 60% here, 40% there, finally they come to an agreement. If it goes back onto the table again, nobody knows how it's going to turn out. Now, with that said, I can't tell you what to do. This is your meeting, remember? You guys can make changes as you want. However, I just wanted to let you know that what your actions might do before we move forward with this warrant article. All right, so with that, I'm going to read warrant article number 3. Shall the Newmarket School District vote to approve the cost item included in the collective bargaining agreement between Newmarket School Board and Newmarket Teachers Association, which calls for the following changes in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over those paid in the prior fiscal year. Compensation increases for 2013-2014 totals $307,616. In the year 2014 to 15, it's $178,583. For the years 2015 to 16, it's $179,163. On health insurance savings, there's a savings incurred in years 2013-14 of $344,955. In the other years, there's zero savings incurred. The net changes in the year 2013 to 14 is a savings of $37,339. In the years 2014-15, it's an additional cost of $178,583. In the years 2015 to 16, it's an additional cost of $179,163. The warrant article continues to read as further to reduce the operating budget by a sum of $37,339 for the upcoming fiscal year. Such sum representing the changes in costs attributed to the changes in salaries and benefits over those of the appropriation at current staffing levels paid in the prior fiscal year. This is recommended by the school board by a vote of 4-0, 1 abstention, and not recommended by the budget committee by a vote of 3 to 6. So I'd like to ask Dr. Hayes to give us a little discussion about this negotiated values.
The first thing that you need to understand is that in our operating budget, as was presented today, in that operating budget are the funds to fund our current health insurance with increases as the company projects for next year. And so that's what's in the budget. When we began the negotiating process, the first step was to try to achieve a comparable plan, but for less money, costing the employees and the district less. And so we had those negotiations with teachers. We met with different providers and settled on a provider, as you see in the second paragraph, called School Care. Our current program is a POS and HMO, and in the new plan, the School Care program, the POS and HMO are comparable in terms of benefit, but much less costly. The group also agreed to add a third component, which I believe is the Open Access Plus, which is a high deductible plan, but again, even less expensive than the other two. So we're really trying to drive down expenses. When we did that and took our current participation, we project a savings of roughly $345,000. As we entered into negotiations with teachers, it was our intention that that is money we could use to our advantage in negotiating a new contract. It's in our interest as a school district to have competitive salaries for teachers. And that's what we tried to achieve. That was a major goal for us. And so it was important that we do that, and the intention was, how can we make use of those savings that are already in our budget to do that? And so if you look in the article, you see for the 2013 and 14 school year, we negotiated a contract that had a compensation increase of $307,616, and that's not just salary, that's other related benefits like FICA and so forth. And so then to that, we applied the $345,000, which was a savings already in our operating budget, so it's just being applied to this. So the net of those two means it's a net savings, if you will, of $37,339, and that's why you saw on Article 1 that that money wasn't just going to be held on to, it was going to be used to reduce the operating, the number of the operating budget in Article 1. Then the other 2 years, there are obviously budgeted increases. If you look at the table at the lower right hand of the page, it shows that it's a 3.7% plus step increase for the first year, followed by 1.6% and 1.6% plus step for the other 3 years, for the other 2 years, excuse me. Obviously, other things were negotiated in here, and when you see the bullets on that page, I start describing some of the non-financial elements. There were important steps forward for us. I think most primary there was in reduction in force and getting something that is beyond seniority to include things that and performance and other ways that they contribute to the district. So those are very good wins as far as we're concerned. On the reverse side of this yellow sheet, at the top there are other levels of compensation in the new contract. Last year, obviously, we tried to negotiate a contract and ended at impasse, and so everybody was status quo. So last year's status quo for teachers meant that they were held at the exact same levels of compensation, with one exception. The one exception is if they moved to a higher degree status, if you will. If they have a bachelor's degree, but in that intervening time got their master's, the law allows them to get the increased amount of compensation for somebody with a master's. But that's the only exception. So none of the benefits, none of the salaries, including the Beyond Step 15 compensation, increased at all. The Beyond Step 15 compensation has clearly been a bone of contention, I think publicly, to the detriment of negotiations, but it has been in any case. And it's something that if we were going to get to a deal with teachers, this to us was a reasonable compromise. that we needed to find a way to diminish that benefit. That was the interest of the board, and we reached an agreement here. There are some teachers who receive through that benefit $3,000 and less, and for those folks, that benefit will continue. It won't increase. There are some people who today earn more than $3,000. Many of them earning $6,000 more. That amount will decrease by $500 in each of the 3 years of this contract. The other thing that's really important to stress there is that is solely for those people receiving money through this benefit today. The language is deleted from the contract. There's no ability for anybody else to all of a sudden start getting benefits through that beyond step 15 compensation. So for us, it's a step in the right direction to reduce the impact of that, and that was part of the negotiated agreement. The last thing that I would say, and it's really been mentioned, but you see the charts there comparing our salaries. It's very difficult to be so non-competitive. Attracting teachers sometimes is a problem, getting the best teacher when we're hiring. The other, retaining teachers, is definitely a problem. It has felt like a revolving door sometimes, especially in high school math, which is a real critical need for us. Just as we begin to get someone who is up to the level of our curriculum, they move elsewhere for money. So obviously, with this change in salary, we're not going to move up in that a great deal, but at least we will be more competitive. And to us, that was a really important interest in negotiating this contract. The last thing to say, then again, in terms of this year, it is a reduction of your the estimated reduction of 5 cents per thousand tax impact.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hayes. Yep. Okay, then, so we have before us warrant article number 3 that talks about the teacher's contract. Anybody have any comments? I'm not seeing anybody line up.
Colorado, 177 Exeter Road, long-time resident, 66 years. What percentage just increased, what, 3.7%?
So I'm sorry, you're looking for an increase of what?
What is it, 3.7% this first year?
3.7% on which, on the yellow sheet? Do you understand the question, Dr. Hayes?
I do, yes. As you see in that chart, 3.7%.
Isn't that a little bit of inflationary? I mean, the consumer, it says that 1.5 or 1.7. Us Social Security people got 1.7 because that's what it is. And if you go 3.7 on their contract.
We negotiated a contract that resulted in that. And negotiations, that's the salary amount. There's also a significant savings in health insurance that, yes, it's applied in year 1, but don't forget that that level of savings continues in subsequent years. It's just not shown, it can't be shown in the amount here, but our operating budget will have a decreased amount as a result of that savings in health insurance. It won't go away in year 1. It'll increase, yes, by nominal amounts, but it won't go away.
Now, I going back at this yellow sheet here, and I'm showing what Newmarket is as far as what we're paying our teachers. But yet, when I go to your department and get the payroll, I see very few getting that low money. Most of them they're above 60,000, some up below 65, 68, 73,000. They're way up there. Why do you put that figure out there and make it, I think it's wrong.
So, Mr. Parati, you're questioning the average salary that's posted?
Yeah, but you have some teachers only 1 year or 2 years salary. If they put their salaries in and
So the information that's provided on the yellow sheet is an
I want
average.
the truth, that's all I want. I mean, I still pay taxes, I've paid it all my life, and I got a thing over here that I've brought up before on you people that you did give out $6,000 many $6,000 bonuses to teachers, which means they got 3 raises in 2 years. You had a 2-year contract, but yet you gave out some bonuses on this. It's right on the sheet right here. And we didn't vote on that. There was nothing in the contract saying giving retroactive bonuses or yearly things.
Yes.
The sheet, excuse me, hello. Okay. The numbers that you have look different from here because this is strictly salary. What you have would be salary and benefits. Maybe beyond step 15, maybe some other longevity pieces. And I couldn't make a comparison with other communities because they have other kinds of benefits. And it really wouldn't be an easy comparison. But it's simple to say that other places pay other things besides just the salary. These are the comparisons that come out of the salary scales, which make up a great deal of their compensation. A great number of our teachers are at the top step, and a great number of our teachers, and I want to say maybe 35 to 40%, receive that $6,000 beyond step 15 additional compensation. But that, again, that's being addressed through the contract to continue to reduce that amount.
Well, for instance, over here, I have here, point, just, I won't say the teacher's name, but it's $66,900. Now it says longevity, $500. Longevity, again, $900. In this bonus system, $6,000, which she got an increase of almost $8,000. Because you add on the other benefits they get. So I'm saying we should have the true factors given as far as what their salaries are in any report. Not always put out a low figure over here. Yeah,
If I may.
No, I'm just.
Yeah, hold on. A salary and a bonus are different. Bonus is not added back into salary.
Why weren't we told about it? I had to get this report
Why weren't you
here.
told about bonuses?
That's still given, you know what the total bonuses were given out? $237,000 and $650. I mean, well, $650. That's how much was given out in bonuses.
So
why wasn't that put on some kind of a warrant that we would have voted on?
Okay, Dr. Mason.
The amounts that you're talking about, you know, bonuses is really a misnomer. It's not in the contract in that way, with the exception of the step 1 bonus. But it is additional compensation that really developed over the last 2 contracts. When you negotiate a contract, sometimes you negotiate the salaries, and sometimes you negotiate other forms of compensation. And that's really what has evolved here over time. I don't know what was presented to you in the previous years when there were contracts, but I can tell you our contracts are out there publicly, and as obviously you have the information, we try to be as transparent as possible. For every teacher, it can be different what their actual compensation is.
But what I'm trying to say is that it still should, all this amount of money should have been at least put into a warrant, because we went through, when I spoke to you face to face, you went back to 2007, 2008, 2009, it was retroactive. I never saw anything retroactive. I saw it for 1 year only, and that was the last year of the contract, $1,500. That was in there. But you went back to 2007.
And I did, because the Beyond Step 15 component began back then. And the language in the contract was a little ambiguous. And the way then, when a contract is interpreted, if it's ambiguous and how it's interpreted becomes really the practice of the contract. And the way that it was interpreted was to be cumulative. And so those amounts, and you may object to it, I understand that, but the reality is that those amounts became cumulative in nature, and the only way to escape that is to negotiate out of it. There was nothing illegal in that, and it was just simply the way that an ambiguous statement, to me ambiguous anyway, was interpreted. And it may have been what was agreed to at the table. And I don't know what was presented to you, but the reality is not what happened in 2007. The reality is that we have this today. We've negotiated an agreement that backs away from that in what the board thinks is in a somewhat reasonable fashion.
That $237,000 was money. Where did you get it to give them this bonus? So we didn't put nothing in the budget to give this out. So where did you get it?
The budgets and contracts have been approved every year. That's all I can tell you.
Part of the collective bargaining warrant article that you vote on every year, that money lives as part of the collective bargaining contract that the town votes on every year. That's where that money lives. So it's not like we just came up with this money, everyone has voted on it. It lives in that warrant article.
Well, I mean, I'll just leave it alone because this is going to be voted on anyway, regular way. But I'm just saying, to point of view, a teacher comes up here and says this and that. Our trouble is, most of the budget is salary, correct? 85%,
Yes.
70, what?
Yes.
Now, that's why we have a problem today about all the school system with the union and the teacher.
Let me just speak to something so that it's really clear. What you see for year one of this contract is a net savings of $37,339. And no one's pulling any wool over anybody's eyes. What that is the total compensation, salary, benefits, additional compensation, bonuses, whatever you want to call it. That came out to $307,616, and we're applying this health insurance savings to more than cover that expense. Okay?
I'm surprised it was a savings. I'm saying, I don't think so. Somewhere along the line, we're going to pay for this.
Okay, can I just ask you to hold a minute, because Roseanne Klotzer actually.
Why does she get to speak before I do?
She actually motioned to me a while back before Ed got up that she wanted to. All right, so yield the floor to Roseanne.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In the Article 3, it's a total over 3 years of 6.9 in compensation. And they are also seeing a decrease in the cost of their health insurance. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes.
So year to year, so they're getting a 6.9 increase in salary, plus they're saving money in their health insurance, but yet on the front sheet of the yellow, their insurance is still only being 11% for employee contribution. And I'd like to know why that was not increased the way the town has increased it. Most of the town employees are paying 20%. They did not get this type of an increase in salary. And even the police department is only getting half of what the school is getting, a percentage for a 2-year increase. And I just don't think it's fair. I think the school, the town, the school should share the burden with the town employees, and it's not fair to the town employees at all.
Okay, so I'm going to take that as just comments made. As I previously discussed, these are negotiated dollars, negotiated deals between the Teachers Association and the school board. These are the negotiated amounts that they came up with. They are separate entities from the town. They are separate entities from the town negotiations with their employees and the Police Association. There's no synergies between all of them. This is what was negotiated and signed. It's a done deal. If you wish to make an amendment to the warrant, as stated, I'll entertain an amendment, but right now I'm going to move forward with the next question.
My first point was, Jill Berry, Lady Slipper Drive. I've been to these meetings for a few years, and one point that I made a few years ago is that I feel that if there are people sitting at the tables here and they'd like to speak as a citizen, that they remove themselves from the committee table and come around to the podium to make their personal comments. I am just here, not to ask a question, just to make a statement. I'm here to say I'm tired of hearing people saying that the teachers in Newmarket are lucky to have their jobs. I have a slightly different perspective. We are lucky to have such wonderful teachers in Newmarket. The state of the economy is not the teachers' fault. They're experiencing it with their own families. The teachers are a key, however, to helping our children to be educated and prepared in the future so that they won't be limited when the economy experiences a recession. These teachers give so much time and effort every day to the children of our community. They participate in professional development, curriculum initiatives to help our students to be successful learners. They run additional school programs such as a homework club, a jump rope club, cross country, student council, art club, chorus, band, garden club, breakfast club, just to name a few. They help our children to be well-rounded people who contribute positively to the school community and also the larger community of Newmarket. I'd like to specifically speak to the professional development end of the experience of the teachers. In the past, Newmarket was a stepping stone for new teachers. They'd get a year of experience at Newmarket or two, and then they'd move on to a better paying school district. We would pay for their professional development, but never really reap the benefits of that training as they would take that with them. But then teachers started to stay. And yes, because they stay, we pay a little bit more. But having experienced teachers in our district is not a negative, it's an amazing positive. We pay for the professional development, and the teachers work together, not only at grade levels, but from year to year to ensure consistent expectations and growth. Being a volunteer in the schools, I'm thrilled with what I see with the strength of the development of their math skills. I think they spent 3 years going through training and implementing new curriculum in math. We need to celebrate the experience of our teachers, not discount it. With the state of our facilities and the fact that our teachers are on the low end of the salary scale, I say that we show teachers that we appreciate them, the growth and successes that we've seen our students make, and support this contract. We are lucky to have you.
Okay, so thank you. So it was asked of me to make a statement to these councils that if they wish to speak on their own behalf, to move around to the public microphone. It was widely received. I heard the applause. I have in the past asked board members to do that. It's sometimes difficult to do it. I did not talk to them today about that. And like I said, it's difficult to sometimes draw the line between what is a response to a question and what is a personal comment. But I will certainly take that forward should I continue in this position. Now, also, in order to keep this meeting moving forward, there is one of my moderator rules to limit discussions to 5 minutes. Now, it's a very difficult thing to do, but 5 minutes is really a long time. And I'd just like to ask those people that speak, I hate cutting off discussion from somebody. So I like to ask you guys, when you come up to talk, please make it brief, to the point, and let's move forward. And also, again, I understand the support of the audience on certain points that the speakers make. I have to ask you to please stop the applause to allow us to move forward. Thanks.
Lorraine Stewart at Priority Circle. Negotiating teachers' contracts are very difficult. Stated here, it says a year ago negotiations ended at an impasse. That'll tell you how difficult they are. And that you have achieved an agreement with the school teachers, I think, is marvelous. I have one question. Because there was an impasse and they stayed at the same salary, does that 3.7 really mean 1.8 per year for those 2 years?
Okay, kind of a distribution of funds, huh? You're prepared for that.
That was not our perspective. We were pretty adamant as a board and in negotiations that there was no going to be any catch-up because of what happened last year. That's more a reflection of the fact that we really had to apply the savings from health insurance only in that first year, and apply that savings only in that first year, and wanting to really significantly increase salaries over the 3-year period. And so it really bunched into that first year because of more of the health insurance savings.
I think the teachers are well worth this. We have marvelous teachers in this system. I have worked among many of them. Also, if you research online, you will see in a rating, Newmarket school system, out of a scale of 1 through 10, rated 8. We are rated as highly as many of the other well-respected schools. So I think our teachers are deserving of this.
Hi, Karen Polzanetti, Stonewall Way. I just want to clarify, when is the last time the teachers actually received a raise?
So I think the question is more about when was the last time we had a negotiated contract. So the teacher's contract has not been renewed in a number of years. The contract that was in effect at the time that it wasn't renewed continues in effect and rolls from year to year.
But did they receive a raise during that time?
As dictated within the previous contract.
From last year to this, no raise, with the exception of that degree change, column move. I think the prior year was a 1% increase. I'm looking up there at our teacher negotiator, she's nodding her head, yes. So the year prior was a 1% increase over the prior.
Okay, so it'd be fair to say, even though some people might feel this contract has a higher raise, they've not had a significant raise in a few years. Correct? Okay.
All Dana, Elizabeth Garrison. Could you explain the carrot that's being used here to sell this is the $350,000 savings because you're changing to a new plan? As I generally understand it from talking to a few folks involved in this, the teachers are getting the same quality, same level of coverage, only because it's a different plan, we're saving $350,000. Is that correct or not, before I proceed with my question?
That is correct.
Okay. Why was that even part of a teacher's negotiation process? It seems to me that that should have been a completely separate issue because it's to everybody's benefit. It raises the question as to whether you guys, whether they held you hostage. I apologize for the phrasing, but I can't think of it. They held you hostage over the rest of the contract negotiations because they somehow had a fist on that $350,000 that you couldn't shake loose unless you gave them all this other stuff.
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as that. The negotiations were really terrific. You know, it was really a good give and take. I didn't feel being held hostage by it. We knew as a board where we wanted to be, and we felt we had that money to try and achieve a settlement.
Could you have on your own gone off and changed insurance companies?
There is language in the contract that governs the fact that we need to work with the union to develop a mutually agreeable health insurance plan, and that there be comparable programs.
Is that still in the contract? Do they still hold sway in the future?
I wouldn't say they hold sway. I thought those negotiations were terrific too. Both have an interest at the table. We as an administration, as a school board, have an interest in reducing expenses, and so do the teachers.
Yeah, with all due respect, I understand that, but the issue is the severability of the two concerns. They have a program that's going to cost us $350,000 less. It's going to cost them less, and somehow that was involved in contract negotiations. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's you decide on that before you walk in the door, and then you have the discussion about all the other stuff. You're trying to sell us a contract based on the fact that we as taxpayers are going to spend $350,000 less. In my opinion, that shouldn't even be on the table.
Well, there is language in the contract that puts us together to make that decision. Teachers Association.
Okay,
and
so
the school.
excuse me. if I-
He's answered the question.
Okay.
Okay, the only other point that I have to make is that I served 6 years in the school board back in the late 80s and 90s. The nature of the contracts with regards to entry-level salaries for teachers versus the levels for teachers that have been here a while, in large part came down to who was at the negotiating table. When we had a negotiating panel from the teachers that was loaded with young teachers, the packages were negotiated to get them off the bottom levels and to raise them. Quite often, when we were negotiating contracts with more veteran negotiating teams, they were more concerned, and not to disparage them, but they were more concerned about that $500 after top steps and those kinds of things. So I would caution folks in looking at the statistics that we, the taxpayers who do or don't vote for these contracts, are not necessarily responsible for the fact that we have the lowest starting rate of a teachers in the entire region, or next to lowest, as your statistics say. Part of that culpability comes back to historically as to what the teachers were asking for when they came in. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right, so I'm going to try to keep this meeting moving along, okay? So we have a reading of a warrant article, and I think we all know about the passions of the warrant article and the dollars involved. I ask that the speakers, kind of limit their discussions, rather than, the yays I support and no I don't, which I really can't stop you from doing, but I'd like to ask that we try to move this meeting along. If you have an amendment that you'd like to make or a change, let's do it, but let's try to move forward. With that, go right ahead. And
I make a motion to end discussion on Article 3 and vote.
If you sit down and I see nobody behind you, I will go along with that.
And I'd like to make a second motion after that, after I sit down.
All right, so. All right, Amy's gonna say something real quick, and then we're gonna close.
Yeah, Amy Rossi, 15 Hillside Lane. I would just like to clarify that many of the teachers that were on the negotiating team ended up with a cut in their salary based on previous, what they called bonuses, which were not really bonuses. It was the wording of the contract. So many of those teachers who were negotiating did not receive a will not receive a 3.7% increase, some of which will receive 1% or less. So I don't know the actual numbers, but I just would like to clarify that I would like to thank our negotiators for working so hard, and actually some of them getting less of a salary increase because of what they agreed to during negotiations. So thank you.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any amendments to Article number 3. I'm going to move forward to warrant Article number 4. You have one moment on the floor first.
Yeah, Tom Switek, 8 Lamprey Street. I'd like to make a motion. The remainder of the articles 4 through 12 have all been voted, recommended 5-0 unanimously by the school board. I would motion that we collectively end discussion on 4 through 12, accept them in the affirmative, and end the meeting.
Well, Tom, thank you for that, and that was a real valiant effort to make this move along, but I cannot accept that. That would be totally out of context for this meeting. I have to at least say words on it, and we have to move forward. So we do have to take each warrant article up as written. So here we are, warrant article number 4. Prior to warrant article number 4?
Yeah, please. I'd like to make a motion to limit reconsideration.
I have a motion on the floor to limit reconsideration by...
Oh, sorry, Tony Weinstein, 275 Ashland Road.
Second.
Second by who?
Michael Burns.
Did you get that?
Michael Burns.
Michael Burns. Motion on the floor to limit reconsideration, all those to all articles previously stated.
Thank you.
All business previously conducted. All those any questions? No, we can't do that. Sorry, again, nice try. We can only do it on business that we've previously conducted. Okay, everybody understands that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. It passes. Thank you. Warrant article number 4, to see if the school district, if article number 3 is defeated, will authorize the school board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article number 3, cost items only. Recommended by the school board as previously stated, 5-0, and as the budget committee, 10-0. Any questions, comments on warrant article number 4? I take it the people getting up are on their way out. I'm not seeing anybody at the podium, and we're moving to it, so I am going to close warrant article number 4 and go on to warrant article number 5. A couple of words first. Warrant articles numbered 5 through 8 deal with leftover budget funds, okay? So we need voter permission, the school board needs voter permission to allocate any leftover funds, be they in the budget, which is usually not usual, but sometimes it does happen if certain things change. So we need voter approval to allocate these funds to other locations, otherwise they get returned to a general fund to reduce taxes in the next year. These warrants presented to you, 5 through 8, are typical. We've done these every year. And with that, I'm just going to move on. Warrant article number 5, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate 1/4 or 25% of any June 30th, 2013 fund balance or surplus up to $50,000 to be added to the expansion of school facilities capital reserve fund that was established in 1962. Recommended by the school board 5-0 and not recommended by the budget committee 110-9. Any questions or comments on warrant article number 5? I'm going to close warrant article number. Drew Kefever. Drew, again, if you have personal comments, please move to the public microphone.
I think we got it, Chris. Hello, Drew Kefever, 50 Elm Street. I'm going to speak to the next 4 articles. Since we're on the number 5, I'm just going to say a few things. The budget committee kind of looked at these 4. You'll see that the budget committee recommended 2 and did not recommend 2. The overall philosophy there was the budget committee thought it would be fair to allocate 50% of any surplus towards some savings, and they prioritized Articles 6 and 7, and the other 50% to be returned to the taxpayers. So that's sort of the explanation of the budget committee's votes on these 4 articles. Thank you.
I'm going to close warrant article. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Dale Pike, 30 Smith Garrison.
Start over, please.
Sure. Dale Pike, 30 Smith Garrison. What does the negative vote mean on these articles?
Okay, so a negative vote on these articles during the second session would be that the leftover surplus that the school might have in their budget at the end of the year would have to be returned to a general fund to reduce future taxes. Otherwise, they have the authorization of you folks, the town, to move them into these other accounts. I'm going to close warrant article number 5 and move to warrant article number 6. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate 1/4 or 25% of any June 30th, 2013 fund balance surplus up to $50,000 to be added to the School Technology Expendable Trust Fund, established in 2005 under the provisions of RSA 198:20-C for the purpose of purchasing technology equipment. It's recommended by the school board 5-0 and by the budget committee 10-0. Any discussion, comments, questions? Left, right? I'm going to close warrant article number 6 and move to number 7. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate 1/4, 25% of any June 30th, 2013 fund balance surplus up to $50,000 to be added to the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund, established in 2004 under the provisions of RSA 35.1-B for the purpose of educating disabled children. Recommended by the school board 5-0 and the budget committee 10-0. Any questions, comments, amendments? Not seeing any, I'm going to move on to warrant article number 8. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate 25% of any June 30th, 2013 fund balance surplus up to $50,000 to be added to the repair and maintenance of school facilities expendable trust fund. It was established in 2004 under the provisions of RSA 198:20-C for the purpose of repairs and maintenance of school facilities. Recommended by the school board 5-0 and not recommended by the budget committee by 1 to 9. I'm not seeing anybody moving. I'm going to close warrant article number 8 and move on to 9. Okay, so now we're kind of back to normal warrant articles. Warrant article number 9. To see if the school district will raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to establish a capital reserve fund to meet the cost of utility expenses and to designate the school board as agents to expend the fund. It's recommended by the school board 3-2 and by the budget committee 9-1. Dr. Hayes, would you like to speak a little bit about this warrant?
Just a couple of things here. As you can see in the narrative, we experienced an incredible increase in our fuel costs, and part of the challenge is setting a budget now, or even beginning to put one together in the fall for really what is next year and next heating season. So it's a very volatile area, and so what we, as an administration, as a school board, wanted to do is create a capital reserve fund that helps us, much as, for example, the special ed one does, that the unanticipated bumps that come along the way can be dealt with not by trying to squeeze money out of an already lean budget, but to access a capital reserve fund. The only other comment I would make is that you see that the school board's recommendation says 3-2. That is purely because the original warrant article that we had was seeking to put $50,000 into that fund, and then very recently we reconsidered that. The motion was made to reduce it from 50 to 25,000, and the vote of the school board at that time was 3-2, and that's why you see a $25,000 amount.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. And questions, comments, come on up to the podium.
1 minute. The other day, I got a call, and there's a new outfit that's supplying electricity through public service. And they reduced mine's going to be reduced by 24%. Now, this is the public service will be on their line, but it'll be a different company coming from Connecticut, and they will reduce you by 24%, almost 2.5 kilowatts. I just thought I'd bring that up so you look into it maybe.
We already take advantage.
You did?
We already take advantage of that.
I'll take that as a friendly comment to the
Tell that to the people over here.
Any other questions, comments, amendments to warrant article number 9? Not seeing any. I'm going to move on to number 10. Article number 10, to see if the school district will accept the provisions of RSA 198:20-B, providing that any school district at any annual meeting may adopt an article authorizing indefinitely until specific recession of such authority the school board to apply for, accept, and expend without further actions by the school district unanticipated money from state, federal, or governmental unit or private sources which become available during the fiscal year. This is recommended by the school board 5-0 and by the budget committee unanimously 10-0. Dr. Hayes, could you just say a little bit?
Well, when you approve the Article 1, for example, in this warrant, that total operating budget, that is the absolute ceiling beyond which we cannot spend unless this gets approved. So if we were to obtain a grant or some other resources, the ability to spend beyond what was approved in the operating budget needs a support from the voters for an article such as this. It's provided in the RSAs. As you see in my narrative there, the town already has that ability to do it, and so we're looking for the same ability, and it helps prevent the disincentive, if you will, from trying to seek other resources and grants.
Okay, thank you. So, any questions, comments, amendments from the floor? Yes, Roseanne.
A question. it just came to my attention, I mean, we all voted for this in the budget committee 10-0, but in going through a few papers, trust funds in school districts, under RSA 3131, it says the principal school board coaches cannot hold privately donated funds. So my question to the school's legal is, even under 19820B, can the school hold private sources which become available, or does that part have to be struck from Article 10 because of the language in RSA 3131?
Thank you, Roseanne. I'm going to ask that.
The two statutes deal with two different issues. The 3131 deals with trust funds that are going to be held, and simply what 3131 is saying is that the school board doesn't hold the money, but the trustees of the trust fund hold the money that are donated to the school district to trust. Similar to the way the trustees of the trust fund for the town hold the capital reserve funds that the town has and the trust funds that are already established. RSA 198B is dealing with a different source of money. It's money that comes into the school district in the course of a year and is expended in the same year, not that it's held on to. And it's only money that comes in as a grant for technology, for whatever purpose. It's unanticipated sources of revenue that become available to the district that were not anticipated at the time of the vote of at the time of the school district meeting when the budget was prepared, that become available during the course of the year. And if in the event that the district becomes eligible for one of those, whether it's a grant, a bequest, or what have you, then under 19820B, once it's adopted, the district could accept that money and expend it for that purpose. And there are strings attached to it. Cannot require the expenditure of additional funds that are, except those that are lawfully appropriated for the same purpose, that are part of the operating budget. And in addition, if the amount is over $5,000, there needs to be a public hearing on the acceptance and expenditure of that amount of money. Okay?
Does that answer your question, Roseanne?
I don't think it clarifies it anymore. I think it's specific here in RSA 3131 that the trustees of the trust funds hold all gifts, bequests, and devices, and the principal school board coaches cannot hold privately donated funds. I'm not questioning everything, grants or anything like that, just it's specific here, private source, and I take it the private source, which becomes available as privately donated funds.
Okay.
I think there's a contradiction. I'm raising the question as to the legality of that portion of Article 10.
Okay, so the answer that came back from legal counsel was that the warrant article as written is appropriate and legal. There are differences between the two RSAs that you mentioned. I'm just going to leave it at that. You're asking the question. I don't have an amendment on the floor to change anything. I'm not seeing anybody else getting up to question the attorney's comments or ask further questions on it. I'm just going to leave it at that. Anybody else have any questions, comments on Article number 10? I'm going to move forward to warrant Article number 11. All right, so once again, folks, please bear with me. We got just a few articles left. Please stay with me through the end of this meeting so we can close it. Warrant Article number 11, to see if the Newmarket School District will vote to require that the annual budget and all special warrant articles having a tax impact shall contain a notation stating the estimated tax impact of the article, recommended by the school board in total and by the budget committee in total. So you may have heard me question the town on their notation on their warrant articles for this language. Right now, we cannot, the school district cannot put such language on the warrants. As you know, warrant article language is full of marbles, and it's made that way by the lawyers and the rules and the regulations that we follow. By state statute, you can only put on what you're allowed to put on. You can't put on anything that is not already allowed. In this particular case, the Department of Revenue Administration has changed the rules and has allowed us to put on this tax impact information. However, in order to do it, we have to get a vote from the public to do it. So that's why this article is on there. It does not affect anything in the warrant this year. It will impact how the language is placed on warrants in the future. Dr. Hayes, you want to add anything more to that?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So, any questions, comments, amendments to warrant Article 11? All right, thank you. I'm going to move on to warrant Article number 12. To see if the residents of the community desire the school board to enter into a non-binding discussion with Oyster River Cooperative School District to consider jointly serving grades 9 to 12 and to provide a report to the committee by February 2014. Recommended in total by the school board and also by the budget committee. Questions? Comments?
Lori and Caprioli, 40 Riverbend Road. I have a question. Why are we limiting it to Oyster River only?
Okay, good. Dr. Hayes.
In 2010, I believe it was the annual meeting in 2010, it asked that the school district explore mergers with other districts. And what came out of that in the spring of 2010 were asking other districts whether they would entertain that. We went through a lot of discussions. The only real serious ones were Epping, and then Epping had a referendum similar to this, and the school board squashed any idea of joining. I'm sorry, the town of joining with us. So we did extend our interest to a number of neighbors within reasonable commuting distance, and they were not interested at the time. And then back just last spring, Oyster River had a change of heart, because Oyster River originally had said, no, we can only take up to 100. They had a change of heart because I think they paid a little more attention to their enrollment projections, and so they're the only one we're in discussions with.
So you don't perceive another school district ever having a change of heart? I guess my purpose of asking this question is just, I guess I'm going to just do it and see what the audience thinks. I want to make an amendment, and I have it in writing. So to see if the resident, I would like to amend Article 12 to say, to see if the residents of the community desire the school board to enter into a non-binding discussion with any and all possible school districts to consider jointly serving grades 9 through 12 and to provide a report to the community by February 2014.
Okay, so if I'm correct, and take a look at your notes, you're saying strike the words the Oyster River Cooperative School District and insert the words any and all possible school districts.
Correct.
Okay. I have an amendment on the floor by Lori Ann Caprielli. I need a second. Mr. Dieterle? Okay, so I have an amendment on the floor. I want to have discussion on the amendment. Anybody want to get up and speak further on the amendment? I like the socks. They're quiet. Yes.
Brian Hart, 1 Beach Street. So I was going to speak to the article, but I'll address it with the amendment as well. It would be good if the school board corrected me if I was wrong, but I think their intent was specifically to get a response to Oyster River, and I think that's important. My friends live in Deerfield, and Deerfield is pursuing Oyster River as well. They've done facility tours of Oyster River, Pembroke Academy, and they currently go to Concord. And my friend who I respect a lot said, Oyster River has the best facilities and the best academic programs of all those schools. And we want it to be Oyster River. We have to recognize we're in competition. They have space, they have a high tax rate, they have incentive to take tuition dollars to fill that space. We have to market ourselves and present ourselves as the logical choice. And I think that this is one of the best options we have to address the facility needs by using a facility that has space. I really like the idea. I'm not sure how it's going to work, and I personally don't want to see a tuition agreement for 20 years because I want to have some political say in the decisions, so eventually it needs to be a partnership. So I think we should not amend it this way, and we should understand that previously we endorsed the idea of other communities when it passed in 2010, but that this is about Oyster River and that choice, because we need to present ourselves well. Also, I want to make sure that I know that our current numbers of kids in 9 through 12th grade basically would fill up the entire open space of vacancies in Oyster River, and that's a concern. We should consider whether we could do 10 through 12 and be okay with tuitioning 10 through 12. We have to be flexible about this because our voters have already rejected a $30 million and a $50 million school. And for us to think that that's suddenly going to change again, I'm not sure it is. And so we have to kind of think outside the box. And for me, that's tuitioning to Oyster River or somewhere else and having a great middle school here. And that's where I see us going eventually. This is the first step towards that. So I think we should keep it on Oyster River, and I hope it passes resoundingly as something that should be further encouraged and looked into, so that Durham sees us as not as a reluctant partner, but as an enthusiastic partner.
Okay, thank you. So again, we have an amendment on the floor to open this warrant article up to all possible school districts.
Greg Thayer, Grant Road in Newmarket. Longtime teacher here. I just have one quick thing to say. Whether it's Oyster River or any place, I really believe when a community loses its high school, you've lost more than a high school. You've lost some of your identity. And this is my town, this is my home, and I don't want to see us lose our identity to anybody. Thank you.
Jill Berry, Lady Slipper Drive. I just, the amendment is frustrating to me. I just feel like we're just starting to make some progress and possibly come to some type of decision in the next year. And I'd really prefer to stick with all the background work we've done and to now focus on Oyster River or renovating or whatever our options need to be without going back out and starting all over again and just dragging our feet for a little bit longer. I think we need to move forward.
Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else get up to talk. I'm not going to ask for somebody to move the motion. I'm going to move forward now. We have a motion on the floor to amend the warrant article as follows. To see if the residents of the community desire the school board to enter into a non-binding discussion with any and all possible school districts to consider jointly serving grades 9 through 12 and to provide a report to the community by February 2014. All in favor of the amended article, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Nay. Nays have it. The amendment does not pass. That takes us back to warrant article number 12 as documented on your literature. Is there any further discussion on warrant article number 12 to be had? A couple of gentlemen are coming down. Anybody else? Come on right down. Let's try to get this going.
Crystal ball question. If it got to the point where the town was going to be voting on whether or not to do this, are we going to have two issues on the ballot? I know this is informal, but I want to get a sense of direction here. Do I envision that perhaps we would have a single ballot in the spring of 14 that would say, okay, we can go to Oyster for this price, or we can build for this price? What's your consensus, folks? Or what's your discussion? Where are you kind of headed?
Okay, so hypothetically, if Oyster River does accept us into their district, how do we get there?
Or do we still vote on whether to build a school? I mean, what's
the timeline on build a school? Yes, I think you're accurate. The timeline on working with Oyster River, I'm not sure that it's that far out. The one piece that I got from Oyster River is that they believe they want to make a decision in the fall as to who they want to keep dancing with. And again, it's Deerfield, Barrington is in the mix as well as us. And so I think what their aim is to make a determination sometime in the fall so that then voters in the district that they're chosen, I guess is the way to say it, will have a concrete program to vote for. So I'm not really sure how that all plays out because discussions have really gone much slower than I would like, but that's the best answer I have for you now.
So essentially, I think if we do move forward with tuitioning out of district, of course, our budgeted amounts in the budget have to reflect so, but how do we need a separate warrant article to ask the public if they're going to send their children out of district?
For long term, yes, we do. And if, you know, if there's this selection process that Oyster River is in charge of, if we are selected, then yes, absolutely, next March, there'd be something on the warrant for that.
All right. Yes.
Bob Daigle, Elm Street. The question I've got is, pertains to the timing of this, is if the report's available to us in February, have we got time to do anything to get something on the warrant, on the ballot for town meeting? It seems to me it would make more sense to have it sometime late December or better yet, so we've got time to discuss it and get it on a ballot item, at the very least. We're going to go through this exercise.
Yeah, so Bob makes a good point that we have public sessions in January, and this February date is after that, and gets into a time crunch. Is this date associated with when Oyster River thinks they'll get to us? Or?
Well, again, at the time, it was really, and still is, somewhat difficult to predict when Oyster River and us could come to some agreement on something. When it says there by February 2014, it's going to be as early as possible. And if there's something obviously for the warrant, it has to be before that.
I'm just afraid that, like with all the life safety issues, we kind of kick the can down the road. We've got a bunch of money expended, but don't see a lot of action. And if we are going to commit to doing this, fine, we should have the information in front of the voters as soon as possible. And I guess I'd like this to probably put an amendment forward that says that we'll have findings by December of 2013.
All right, so I understand your amendment. The date on here currently by February is an implied date. It doesn't mean that they're held to that date. They could be earlier. We all understand the timing with all the sessions, and I understand your want to move it up. Not a lot of people attend the public session anyway. I don't think they really know about it, which is why I try to make announcements at the beginning of this meeting. But I'll hold your motion to amend the warrant article to move this date from February 2014 to December 2013. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to make an amendment. Do I have a second? Second by who? Tony who? Weinstein. At this time, where the floor is open to discussion on the amendment. The amendment revises warrant article number 12 with all prior language except for the last date, changing February 2014 to December 2013. Any discussion on the amendment? Yes.
This is a question for the attorney, Judith Ryan. Would it be possible would it be possible to hold a special meeting in order to have this amendment or this option voted on, if it was necessary?
If you had a potential tuition agreement in the fall, to hold a special school district meeting would likely require permission of the Superior Court because it would involve an appropriation of some sort. So, you know, it would necessitate going to the Superior Court for permission to hold a special school district meeting with the authority to not only approve of a tuition agreement, but also approve the appropriation necessary to carry that tuition agreement into effect. There's some confusing state Supreme Court decisions on approval of long-term tuition agreements that essentially, and this is real shorthand for very long decisions that are very complicated, so, but essentially what they say is that a long-term tuition agreement
that obligates a district to pay money into the future is in essence an appropriation. And as an appropriation, even if it doesn't require additional money in the then current fiscal year, it does require approval by the voters. So in order to approve a tuition agreement, sitting here on Saturday in February without the issue before us and without having an opportunity to really research it, my answer would be, I believe it would require a special school district meeting that would then require approval by the Superior Court in order for you to have the authority to enter into that agreement. Okay? Is that clear?
Good lawyer talk. Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor, and I'm not seeing anybody else get up to talk about it. Yeah, a question?
Kiddingly in English, what does a date mean? I mean, regardless of whether it's February, and I understand that's past where the deliberative session would be, so we lose a year in voting for it or making it December. If either of those dates occur and there's no agreement on that date, does that mean we just walk away from the table, said we were only fooling for the past 2 years, or do discussions begin? So my question to the lawyer is, what does that mean legally when we have a date in there? How binding is it?
Okay, I'm going to direct that question to Dr. Hayes. I think Dr. Hayes can answer the question on the date, and I think it's going to be, we're just going to continue because that's the desire, but go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the change to December. I frankly think it may be earlier than that. The date really is really setting a point in time when we make a report. That's all we ask for.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, a report can say that we're ironing out details. But I'd like to have the information before me before we start in on the deliberative process. So we've got some idea, a frame to work within.
Okay, I'm going to call for a vote on the amendment at this time. All those in favor, okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm just going to make it clear again. That the vote will be to amend warrant article number 12 to read as follows: to see if the residents of the community desire the school board to enter into a non-binding discussion with the Oyster River Cooperative School District to consider jointly serving grades 9 through 12 and to provide a report to the community by December 2013. All those in favor of the amended warrant article say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Nay. Okay, the ayes have it. Warrant article number 12 is amended to strike the words February 2014 and enter the words December 2013. Okay, so the warrant article number 12 was amended. Is there any further discussion on warrant article number 12 that anybody desires to continue with? Not seeing any, I'm going to move on to warrant article number 13. Please bear with me. Warrant article number 13 to transact any business which may legally come before this meeting. And again, please, hold on. And I will recognize the individual coming forward, but first off, I have a request from School Board Chair Cliff Chase to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll probably get in trouble with these folks, but we've had a couple school board members, Linda Manigani and Chet Jablonski, who served us very well for multiple terms, not only in the school board, but in other elected positions and other ways volunteering in the community. So I would just like to express a deep gratitude to them at this point. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. Do I have any other business to conduct? Come on, right on up.
Larry Pickering, 119 Ash Swamp Road. Please hold your applause. Thank you for having a good sense of humor. I also, I had to leave early this morning, halfway through the town part of it, but I heard that thanks was not given to two retiring budget committee members, Brian Hart and Jack Fitzgibbon, Brian being the chair. Unselfish dedication along with the two school board members. Their families certainly take a hit, and it's deeply appreciated by me that you've given so much back to this community. And I just have a question, and I believe what I've been told anyways, hopefully it's accurate. On the town side, the town council has decided also again this year to publish all of the salaries of the town employees and insert that in their book. And I'm just asking, is the school board also planning to continue like they did last year and do the same? Thank you very much. That's it.
Does anybody else have any further business to conduct? Please, somebody yell out a name I can take to make, okay, Mr. Dieterle makes a motion to adjourn. I need a second from Cliff Chase. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. This meeting is closed.
Hey, Brian.